Welcome to STARCARD Podcast. Here at STARCARD Podcast, we get a glimpse at the age of Aquarius ahead of us. We also examine the worlds of education and workplace ethics. My name is Breakaway Ray. I like talking about the breakaway civilizations and breaking away from the one we're in now. You've tuned in to a live tarot throw. Today is September 16th, 2025. Let's go right to the tarot cam. I got 4 cards for you. These are 4 cards for you today if you're tuning in for the live podcast, or maybe you're catching it on recording. These 4 cards are still for you. The tarot world wanted you to see this message. And I would like to say, from where I am here in California, good morning to the tarot world. The tarot world has been so good to me during the months of August and September, and we're going to keep it going today. I know the tarot world's been waiting about 24 hours for its chance to talk to you all. So let's have 4 fun, helpful cards for all the viewers at STARCARD Podcast. Thank you very much. You have the floor, tarot world. 4 cards, please, for all the viewers at STARCARD. Thank you very much. 4 cards from the tarot world for all the viewers. 4 cards from the tarot world. A fun, helpful message for all the viewers. This is all for entertainment purposes only. That's why you're tuning in. I'm having fun too. Card number 1. It's the 6 of Cups, which talks about happy memories and nostalgia. Feels like we're already having a good time here. And I think the tarot world's saying, the tarot world's also having a good time sharing with us the last couple of months. All right, I'm jumping ahead of myself here. Let's take a look at all the cards. All right, the Tower card, I'm going to take that as confirmation. What are we doing here at STARCARD? We're getting information by cooperating with the tarot world, and we're changing our perspective and outlook on things. And, and I want to point out that it is the Tower. I wonder if that's one of those old world buildings, made of stone that catch fire. That stuff that I like talking about. Next up. Oh, yeah. Giving and taking. The tarot world, I'm getting the impression the tarot world is saying tarot world really loves its exchange with us. I'm so glad you're tuning in, whether you're catching this on a recording or live. How about that? And the last card, it's the King of Cups. So let me read to you the key terms on this card, which kind of confirm the whole message. Emotionally balanced, diplomatic, supportive leader, and empathic. The tarot world is acting like a supportive leader and being empathic. And also the theme of today and yesterday, we also have a kind of a King of Cups there, an empathic, good diplomatic leader. So anyway, there's your message. The tarot world says, I like spending time with you too. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm happy to be part of your party. So let's give these a quick shuffle. And I want to let everyone know what I have on the agenda, just so you know how you want to budget your time, right? So today I'm going to lead off by talking about the United States Postal Service, an institution here in the United States of America, a pretty important one. And then I also want to talk about 2 presidents from this encyclopedia of presidents that I brought out yesterday when we talked about, and perhaps with President Monroe, gave us a little press conference. I want to try that again. That was cool. So anyway, we'll get to that part. Now, today I did have to make some careful notes just to make sure I don't lose track of what I'm going to say. But just as a reminder, if you want a reading for the second part of the show, please type in all capital letters, tarot, please, so that, if, besides the top fans button, I can keep track of anyone who's making a request. So just to make sure I'm being efficient, I'm going to get my notes. Sorry, I'm not going to be looking at the camera the whole time, but I'm going to keep the show going. All right. Throw the line of the subject here for me. Okay. So I was going to make this an episode advocating that a certain postmaster general step down one way or the other. And it turns out just before I went on air, I found out that as of this year, 2025, he has stepped down. I'm talking about Louis DeJoy. So that takes the pressure off, but there's still some things that are really important that we should all learn from Mr. DeJoy's tenure as Postmaster General, okay? And if I stick to my notes, this will be quick and also very respectful, and also I hope enlightening, because we all need to take a look at the patterns, around us, especially with our own government. So this way, we can make things better for everybody. That's my plan. Okay, so here I go. The post office is a not-for-profit organization, and it kind of reminds me of that South Dakota bank that I spoke about once before. It's a not-for-profit organization. In the United States, we had banks that were also, in a sense, not-for-profit. They weren't allowed to gamble on the stock market, invest money that way. But then I believe it was during Mr. Clinton's administration, we got rid of the Glass-Steagall Act. And the Glass-Steagall Act was put in the first place to prevent things like the Great Depression happening way back in 1928 and 29. So it was a safeguard, and the Clinton administration removed that safeguard. And so anyway, moving on with my notes here. All right, so okay, so I want to point out that postal workers pay into retirement. I don't know if postal workers also get Social Security. They may, that may apply for them. The reason why I might be confused is because as a teacher in California, there's actually a special rule that says I cannot collect Social Security and state teacher retirement. Even if I worked enough units, enough credits to earn Social Security, I would only be allowed to choose one or the other. That's a special rule for California teachers. Doesn't make much sense. If you've earned it and you paid into it, how come you can't? So I go on with my story here because the retirement part is important. Okay, the postal workers have a retirement plan, and they may also get Social Security. Okay, you got to have that, and I suppose I don't need to do too much research to understand that the American Postal Workers Union probably lobbied for that for their contract, right? So that when employees have reached the end of their tenure working for the United States Post Office, they'll be taken care of through money that they've already contributed, for example. It's a way of saving money. I know that the teachers union here in California does the same thing. So I want to point out that the APWU is a valuable organization. It's a leadership organization that helps, young postal employees plan for the future. And if you have people planning for the future like that, the future will be stable for everybody. You'll have a society that is stable, all right? So you're not going to have people who are out of work. You're not going to have, lines to the soup kitchen. We're talking about like the Great Depression again. You're not going to have excessive crime because people will have what they need, for example. That's the goal, right? Okay, back to my notes. Okay, so an additional point I want to make is that when people, whether they're in the postal union or the teachers union, whether they're in a union or not, if they're paying into some kind of 403B, some kind of Roth or IRA or something like that, okay, that's money that they paid into, they invested, they accrued interest. That was their decision. They didn't spend the money, they saved it themselves for the future. Therefore, I say they should be entitled to all of it, and nobody should be jeopardizing it by putting it on the stock market, for example. And, let's see what we can do with it. After all, making money is like a good idea. You have to manage your risk, don't you? So again, back to my notes. I apologize if this is jarring. Okay, I think I covered all of that. All right, so what I wanted to say was that I don't think that, I can't speak for anyone else right now, but it sure looked like when Mr. DeJoy took office, he was trying his hardest to slow down the post office. And when you slow down the post office and make it look inefficient, or you slow down any organization and you make it look inefficient, especially a public organization, okay, then you can say, well, you know what? They're not doing a good job. That's why we need to privatize it. We can go right to the example of schools, right? They don't give enough money to public education, and then they decry and say how terrible public education is. it's just terrible. That's why we need to have vouchers so you could take them to a private school, right? But hey, keep in mind that private schools, I don't know what state you're in, but private schools don't have to have teachers that are trained or credentialed, okay? But if you use a state organization in public education, we have standards. We have standards, and we have professionals on the job. And I'm not just bragging about, being a teacher with a credential. I think it's important in all parts of our society to have credentialed, as it were, experienced, knowledgeable, trained people on the job. Okay, double checking my notes. Okay, so back to Mr. DeJoy. Here's an example I heard about. It may have also been in the news, but I certainly heard it on a late night comedy bit. And I know that those guys do some research. So anyway, there was a story out that when Mr. DeJoy took office, I believe so many years ago, one of the things he did was, they actually had these machines that were super high speed mail sorters. And they really improved the efficiency of the United States Post Office mail delivery system. And then I guess one of the things that Mr. DeJoy did right off the bat was he said, you know what, get rid of that machine. Literally, just get rid of that machine. And then the comedian who I heard was joking around, like, the post, that's when the post office people would actually act like they're not professional. And that's when they would say, oh yeah, we'll get right on that. We'll move that machine out to the parking lot. Yeah, sure. And they never get around to it. But really they're valuing the speed and the efficiency of the mail delivery system, right? So that's a weird thing. And so I wasn't down with Mr. DeJoy's plan, and I didn't appreciate how he handled things. And so I was going to speak up today and say, it's probably time for Mr. DeJoy to go. And the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, I'm late to the show. Mr. DeJoy is gone. So bring on the joy. The joy has returned. I want to wish all United States postal workers a lot of luck. And I want to say thank you to them for their service and keeping the United States rolling. You men and women rock. Thank you very much. So, and why does Breakaway Ray care about this institution so much? Well, I think everyone should care about an institution, because the United States is a big place. Even local city governments got a lot going on. And if we can, we should all participate. So I'm choosing the United States Post Office because my grandfather, not the gardener, but the one that was the postal worker and lived till he was 103 years old, okay, that grandfather worked in the post office for 40 years. And he often, not lamented, but half joked, he would say 40 years of blood, sweat, and tears. So anyway, he was able to retire. And here's where I thank, President Roosevelt, because, he, with all his social safety net programs, okay, my grandfather was able to retire, and he was able to, he didn't have to work the rest of his life. And you know what? You don't really want, nobody in their 80s, 90s, and 100s wants to work. And I don't think anyone really wants someone in their 80s, 90s, and 100s to work. Not just on a competence level, but out of a respect level. Is that what we really want those people to do? If they really want to work, God bless them, let them work. But no, they shouldn't have to work at that age. They've contributed to society. It's time, they've contributed to society. It's time for us to give back a little bit or allow them to enjoy the fruits of their labor, as the Nine of Pentacles would say. You know what? They saved money their whole lives. They're entitled to it. Okay, we can't be jealous because they saved their money and they have a piggy bank. Okay, that's where I champion the Four of Pentacles card. We all have to pinch our pennies and watch what we're doing. We have to be wise and sensible. Okay, so am I getting off my high horse yet? I want to say thanks to the United States Post Office and the workers and their union. And I congratulate them and I wish them a lot of luck. Keep up the good work, everybody. Next up, making sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, so you know what? There's so many things missing from history that I'm not even sure there's enough people old enough watching this podcast to know what I'm talking about, except that they might have scrolled through more videos on their feeds and actually have seen some of this stuff. I'm talking about pneumatic air tubes. Pneumatic air tubes. So I'm going from, United States Postal Service to the system of pneumatic air tubes. And from what little I know about them, that would have required tubes running underground. And now, as soon as you say underground, I already think about how were subways built in the age before gasoline and electricity? These human beings back then must have been superhuman, to work hard all day just shoveling, and they get it perfect every time. We couldn't duplicate the stuff that they did in the 1800s, supposedly, right? Of course, I don't believe that that's what happened. Again, I'm saying there's a lot of stuff that's missing. I wonder which civilization did build and design all that stuff. I'm still learning, but I think we all need to start looking around and paying attention to it. So anyway, you got the pneumatic tubes going under the city. Seems like an efficient system. Oh, you have an efficient system. It helps everybody. Let's find a way to monetize it. Kind of like what Edison did with electricity. And wait, I think I got a list of kind of likes over here. See, yeah, the mail tubes. I don't even know what they're called, but they're like pneumatic mail tubes pushing little cylinders through air tubes to their destinations. Okay, free energy. I just spoke about that. Why are we paying for electricity? Why are we even setting up a system like that in the first place? Okay, free rail transport, and not just free rail transport, but probably what it reminds me of is the underground in Moscow, the subway system there. It's for the public, and it looks like a palace, and it had chandeliers. I'm talking about the 1980s. That's when I was there. So, I'm talking about not just nationwide, but worldwide rail travel like that. Luxurious Orient Express rail travel, free trolley rides, okay, on wonderful trains for everybody, public, and it's free. Imagine that. And, it's so good, someone had to break it all. And so we could start over, and then they could start selling back to us what we already had. This is the stuff that's going on in my mind, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in. This is for entertainment purposes only. Wait, my kind of like list. Wait, there's more. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The air transport. After the Hindenburg, nobody wants to pay attention to, what those airships were all about. So I invite you to explore. There's enough people on social media showing videos of all the stuff that I'm talking about. And I might also remind you, Michelle Gibson does a good job describing, these canal systems and these rail systems and the infrastructure that, from my point of view, I'm starting to share her point of view on this. This stuff was already here, well before the United States got settled by Europeans, for example. I should have said North America got settled by Europeans. It was there probably for hundreds, if not 1,000 years, perhaps. So anyway, while I'm rewriting history, I'm going to go ahead and double check my notes here, see where I am. I think I'm moving to the United States presidents now. So what do? You take those, the mail system, the energy system, the rail system, the air transport system, and then you phase it out and you privatize it. And then once you privatize it, you have a corporation in charge of something that the government should have been in charge of. And that's starting to bleed into fascism. Remember, fascism is when corporation controls the state. And if we're not careful, the corporations are going to control more than just the state, right? So let's start fighting for the Constitution and the Bill of Rights here. Let me just make sure I got my notes right before I bring up the heroes of our Constitution. Here we go. Okay. So good enough on that. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you about two of our U.S. presidents. Going back to this book again. This book from the 1990s. Okay, so it's definitely not up to date, but it's a lot of fun to talk about. So I'm going to read my notes here about John Adams. I know a little bit about him, from my previous career. Just to check here. Okay, he's from Braintree, Massachusetts, and his wife was also an intellectual and influential. Because she was so influential with her husband. One thing that her prowess was with the family budget. So she was able to, keep things above board and in the black so that John Adams could pursue his interests in public administration and public service. Okay. So kudos to that first lady who ended up being the second first lady. All right. So John Adams, before he was president, he was a lawyer. And if you remember your United States history, there was something called the Boston Massacre. I think it was in either 1775 or 1774. And John Adams was the defender for the soldiers, the British soldiers that were involved. So for a lot of us, our ego and our heart says, how could you stick up for the British soldiers after the Boston Massacre? But remember, he was being professional. He was being professional. In fact, if you think about it, how could you let anyone just face a bunch of consequences without due process? If you expect due process for yourself, you need to show due process to everybody else. Right. Enough on that another day, right? So that's one thing that John Adams was known for. And so then I want to jump right to John Adams's tenure as vice president. So what happened was, in the old days, there were two people who would run against each other for the office of president, and the loser would be the vice president. This was in the days before running two people on the same ticket. So George Washington ran against John Adams, according to history, for the office of president of the United States. Washington won. Adams was runner-up, and he was then the vice president. Now, unfortunately, he ended up staying on the sidelines like famous NFL football Hall of Famer Marcus Allen on the LA Raiders. John Adams was extremely competent, extremely knowledgeable and qualified, very well trained, had lots of bridges of communication in the diplomatic world and in the world of government and public service. However, the Constitution only said, the vice president just stands by and does the job if the president can't. And George Washington held him to that and never involved him in the government. And anyway, when George Washington was done with his 8 years, John Adams finally won the election and became president. He became our second president. Let's see what else I got here. Okay, so what I did want to say about John Adams was, again, as a public servant, he was demonstrating, as a public servant, John Adams was demonstrating, how to be a public, how to abide by the rule of law, right? The Constitution said you're just vice president. This is all you're allowed to do. You don't, get to influence anything really. You don't have a position beyond that. You're the relief pitcher in the bullpen. So he just stood by that. He didn't undermine George Washington while Washington was doing his job. He might have offered his advice and his expertise, but he understood that no one had to listen to him. Okay. So anyway, not an underminer. It's all for the public good. Float everyone's boat, right? Okay. Speaking of floating everyone's boat, he did something else that was special. He was the father of our sixth president, John Quincy Adams. And I think I'm going to read my notes about John Quincy Adams, and then I'll go to the book here. No, I guess I'm not done with John Adams yet. So let me go ahead and finish up here. I wrote some good sentences, so let's make this efficient here, Ray. This is about John Adams abiding by the rule of law, right? Already demonstrating being a great public servant, okay, an ethical public servant. I want to point out that he most assuredly went to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in the 1770s and 1780s. And when I say that, I mean John Adams probably saw old world Philadelphia with all those buildings, even with the ones that are missing today. All that stuff was already there. I'm very sure John Adams saw all that in person, right? Okay. Now, as president, John Adams was known to exercise each morning, and he would go swimming in the Potomac River. And so he was keeping his body in shape so he could do a good job. And by the way, taking care of your body is a spiritual activity. Right on, John Adams. You're not only smart, but you're a balanced person, right? Okay. After his reelection, oh, here we go. Finally, these are my last notes on John Adams, right? Okay. So after Adams lost his reelection bid to Thomas Jefferson, the two became lifelong friends. According to the story, the two died on July 4th, Independence Day in the United States of America. And supposedly John Adams's last words were, "At least Jefferson lives." Right, that was 1826 when the two former presidents and good friends passed away. So now on to John Quincy Adams. Yeah, I think I'm going to read my notes and then we'll go to the encyclopedia and then we'll have a press conference with the tarot cards. What do you say? Okay, John Quincy Adams, a lifelong insider. I mean, if he's hanging around with his dad, he knew George Washington personally. He knew Thomas Jefferson personally and early on. He knew James Monroe. He knew all those circles, okay? He was like the kid who was the son of the manager who was hanging out in the dugout with all the all-stars, right? That was when he was a kid. He also toured in Europe while his dad was ambassador. Let's see. Here I go. All right, so as president, John Quincy Adams kept the previous president's advisors. He kept James Monroe's advisors because he kept them as experienced, talented public servants. Okay. Now he didn't want to give in to the energy of political squabbles. Everyone said, "Don't keep Monroe's advisors; they're going to undermine you." He said, "No, they are public servants. They're qualified for their job. Okay, I'm keeping them on the team." And I want to point out that there were two other presidents who kind of operated the same way. One was Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln had a group of very headstrong, very proud individuals on his cabinet. In fact, it was his Secretary of State Seward that thought he thought that he was really going to be the president, and that Lincoln really didn't have anything. He needed like a little help, right? He was going to be like the father figure and take care of Lincoln and help him. That's not obviously what happened. But I like how Mr. Seward had a good public self-image and a good private self-image. I want someone like that in charge, knowing that he can lead, right? So, and then the other thing with Kennedy was he also had supposedly, a lot of opinionated people on his cabinet advising him. But again, that's what I want. I want to hear all points of view. I can't be right all the time. Someone's got to have to point out what I might be missing. I only got two eyes. So I like those ideas. However, it didn't work out for John Quincy Adams. The politics were pretty heated. And in fact, the Monroe advisors did not make it easy for John Quincy Adams, despite their expertise. Apparently, that's how it turned out. Or that's how I'm going to tell the story. STARCARD podcast, this is for entertainment purposes only. Okay, yeah, we're doing good here. I was looking at the time. So I'm going to tell you about the tariff of abomination. That'll be in the encyclopedia. And it just illustrates patterns. It's just going to sound very familiar. What can I say? I should just leave it at that and go where I go. So we're going to talk about the tariff of abomination eventually in 1828. But now we're going to go to the tarot cam, look at the book, take another look at John Adams, the dad, and John Quincy Adams, the son, two wonderful public servants in the United States history. So first up, I can do this. All right. I'm going to say hello to everybody. I see the chat is very active. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to read the chat after the show. All right. So I will turn it around and show you things. But first of all, John Adams, second United States president. You can see what the country looked like at that map at the bottom. Those three states in red were added while Adams was in office. And if you look up in the top center, I've highlighted the day he died, July 4th, 1826. He's from Braintree, Massachusetts. And let's see if there was another point I wanted to show you. Not particularly, but I want to say thank you to John Adams for all his great public service. And I'm going to flip through Mr. Madison and Mr. Monroe, and we're going to get to John Quincy Adams. He's the star of the show today, in my opinion. Okay, so John Quincy Adams, born July 11th, 1767. He was born before the American Revolution in 1777. He was a 10-year-old boy at the time when the Revolution broke out. He's also from Braintree, Massachusetts. Sadly, he died February 23rd, 1848, and that would have been about 16 years before the Civil War broke out in the United States. He had a vice president named John C. Calhoun. His first lady was Louisa Catherine Johnson. And according to what I see here, Mr. Quincy Adams had 4 children, John, Charles, Louisa, and George Washington Adams. He named one of his kids George Washington. So what I'm highlighting here is that a I'll show you what I'm pointing at. It's the date, July 4th, 1828. Dateline, Baltimore, Maryland, July 4th, 1828. The railroad is here. Okay, so I'm reading what it says in the book, but I'm pretty sure even Mr. Quincy Adams, President John Quincy Adams, would say, hey, that's not exactly, don't make it look like that. The railroad was already here. Maybe they already dug it out. Maybe they were open for business. Now people had to pay for it. Okay. But this is definitely history rewritten from Breakaway Ray's point of view. And I'm calling it to everyone's attention because there's a pattern of always hiding the technology that benefits the commons, what benefits all of us. Okay. Here's why I'm going to ask for John Quincy Adams' position or comments on infrastructure in the United States. There's something here called the American system. Let me just read you what I highlighted here, please. Adams was the first president to champion the government's role in making internal improvements for the benefit of trade. Okay, so we're talking about structure and trade that helps everyone, right? But then to get to this paragraph right here about infrastructure, okay, this almost closes up the book on what I'm doing on John Quincy Adams here. It says here, because of the opposition Adams faced within his own administration and in Congress, he was able to win passage of only 2 public works projects. One was an extension of the Cumberland Road into Ohio. The other was the construction of a canal between the Ohio River and the Chesapeake Bay. So President Quincy Adams wanted to have more public infrastructure. However, it didn't turn out the way he hoped. And I want to point out 2 more things before I close this book. One is photography. John Quincy Adams was the first president to be photographed, according to history. This is called a daguerreotype. That's a quite crisp, high-def photography there. Hey, yeah. What do I think? Can you read my mind? Yeah, we've had photography before. Okay, and then I want to read to you again a little bit more about what a dedicated public servant he was. So it says here, after the presidency. Check this out. This is why this guy's my hero. Check this out. I'm going to get my magnifying glass here. Okay. After John Quincy Adams lost the 1828 election to Andrew Jackson, most people expected him to retire. Instead, in 1830, the 63-year-old Adams ran for a seat in the House of Representatives and won. He thus became the first president to serve in Congress after leaving the White House. Adams was often in the minority on issues such as the National Bank, which he favored, and the annexation of Texas, which he opposed. But he had a great success in 1844 when he helped to repeal a congressional rule that suppressed petitions against slavery. To frustrate this gag rule, Adams spent many hours reading these petitions into the official record. What an American hero. That is awesome. Thank you, John Quincy Adams. So, what I want to know from John Quincy Adams, if he would care to comment, if the Terra World can help us get a message from him, I want to know what he has to say about already existing old world infrastructure. I'm pretty sure, who better to ask, right? Who better to ask? I mean, if there's nothing to say, I'm sure there'll be nothing to say, right? And then the other thing I want to ask about is the value of public employees and safety nets, another theme of this morning's presentation. So we're going to go down to the Tarot Cam. We're going to invite President John Quincy Adams to join us and give us a message. Of course, we'll let the president have the final word on his way out the door. So let's go to the Tarot Cam. All right, Tarot World. You know, I've been writing notes and studying for a couple hours. I'm pretty sure President John Quincy Adams has been waiting for his turn to speak. Good morning, Mr. President. Thank you for joining us. Would you care to comment on infrastructure in the United States, especially the old world infrastructure? Would you like to talk about public safety nets and the value of public employees? Thank you, Mr. President, for your time. It's a great honor to have you here. These are from President John Quincy Adams. He would like to share his remarks to help the tarot deck. So great to have him here. Thank you, Mr. President, for joining us. This message is from John Quincy Adams. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Then I'm sure you have an inspirational, fun, responsible message for us, Mr. Adams, at the end of your conference. Thank you for your time today. And one more off the bottom. All right. See, it's all for entertainment purposes only. This is the kind of stuff I could have expected to see like in a weird Scooby-Doo cartoon where he goes and travels in time and talks to John Quincy Adams. Anyway, we're going to try with tarot cards. First up, oh, is this the way I put it? Okay. The value of public employees and safety nets, please. The hangman says we need to take another look at something. Take a different perspective. And looks like we have to balance something, says the Two of Pentacles. And then the Three of Cups says there will be a celebration. Let's take another look at balancing everything for real. And then we'll have good reason to celebrate, with our families, because we'll all be there and we won't have to worry about living hand to mouth and paycheck to paycheck. And then the moon suggests the unconscious and intuition. And well, it also says illusion and mystery. Or was I not just talking about Scooby-Doo? And what was that van called? The Mystery Mobile. But I think the moon card is here because it talks about intuition. And I think maybe what the message might be is that you know in your heart, you know intuitively that it's the right thing to do. You have to have a social safety net. If that is the message, President John Quincy Adams, thank you very much for agreeing with me. I agree with you, sir. Okay. Next, would you please comment on already existing old world infrastructure? You know, if I'm correct, not only did you witness it and see it and walk through those buildings yourself, but as president, you were trying to, reconfigure and reoperate some of this infrastructure. So we invite you to comment, sir. First up, the Three of Pentacles, it talks about collaboration and teamwork. Wow. And then the Lover's card talks about the power of two together. There might be more to this. These both have special Breakaway Ray meanings. Hang on a second. Here is the walk-away card, the Eight of Cups. There's something that no longer serves, so we walk away from it, even though the Eight Cups are all right there. And then finally, the Seven of Wands indicates a challenge. So maybe there's a couple of different meanings here. I asked about already existing old world infrastructure. And the first thing is that these are both, to me, spiritual connection cards. Like, for sure, you are collaborating with the spirit world. And yes, the spirit world is here and we love you. And we've always been around. And this is definitely communication. And the communication is about the perfectly good cups that we walked away from, the infrastructure that we walked away from just so that we could find ways to sell it to the public and make them wage slaves, as it were. And so the whole situation is very challenging. Anyway, I kind of like how that one went. So now we're going to invite the president to make his final remarks. We are so grateful. Hey, let me adjust this. Stop looking at my pajamas. Okay, now we want to adjust this. And Then we want to invite the president to make his final remarks. Thank you so much for joining us today. President John Quincy Adams, great public servant, great hero to the United States of America. Your last words, your last remarks, sir, please. Yeah, the magician. Okay, he really did create magic on his own and through collaboration with others. But there's magic going on here. I love it. This is the King of Wands. This is the big picture. You know, if we talk about what we just did here with the tarot cards, we did some magic to get in touch with someone who understood the big picture, the King of Wands. That's right, Mr. Adams. Okay. Oh, is he a great leader or what? It's the King of Cups. And the King of Cups, we might as well get these cards read. And then finally, the Queen of Cups. All right. So check out that power lineup. Does that, you know, that's how a former president walks out of the room. Okay. I'm a magician. I got the big picture. I'm the diplomatic leader, empathic, who cares about his subjects. And speaking of empathic and comforting and caring about us, how about the Queen of Cups? She closes up with comments like compassion, comfort, calm, nurturing, healing, emotionally stable, intuitive, and caring. Yeah, one more time, thank you, President John Quincy Adams. Thanks, everyone, for playing along while I play with the tarot cards. Thank you, Tarot World. That was fun and informative. Let's give these a shuffle, and then we'll take a look at the list, see if anyone wants a reading. So I see now this was a rather long setup today. I went 40 minutes instead of 30. Hope I didn't lose too many people. Where's my notebook? Here it is. Thanks, everybody. You've written so much. I know I'm going to be sitting a while, checking out all the nice comments. Appreciate it so much. So let's see if did anyone use the top fans button? And did anyone type for a tarot request? Okay. Hi, Sally Forth. Hi, Julie Anchorhaven. Okay. Hi, Johnny. Hi, Maria Madrigal's here. Hello, Maria. Hi, Petty G. Hi, Alicia Walker. Okay, there we go. Sally Forth. Sally Forth, so far you're the only one I see. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want a tarot reading, go ahead and drop it in the request. I don't want to interrupt you while you're all having a good time talking to each other. Anyone else want a reading? Oh, hey, Maria Madrigal, you have a question. Go ahead, shoot. I'm acting like I'm listening. Okay. Oh, I don't know why the top fan. I must have clicked something in. I see it's not up there, Maria Madrigal. You're correct. I think I clicked something incorrectly when I went live today. I bet Julia knows exactly what I did, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to figure it out. Thank you very much. Maria is asking for a spread on meme coin. So I'm going to write that down. Okay, so that's the second reading I got going here. I'm getting a little bit confused. I really don't understand the digital coin stuff. So is meme coin the same thing as coin theft auto? Or do you want me just to focus on coin theft auto? I can also focus on grand theft auto. I know just a little bit more about that. Yes, coin theft auto. Okay. All right. So I don't see any other tarot requests right now. I will start with Sally Forth and then go to Maria Madrigal. Cat theft auto. Cat theft auto. Okay, so it's got the word theft in it. I'm like, I don't want to help these guys. They're stealing. Cat theft auto. That's a meme. I'm so confused. I'm such a dinosaur. Okay, let's go to the tarot cam. Take care, Sally Forth. Thank you very much for your request. All right, Sally Forth. How about a happy, helpful message on a Tuesday for Sally Forth, please? These cards are for Sally Forth. Sally Forth, always having a good time tuning in to STARCARD podcast. These cards are for Sally Forth. A fun, helpful message for Sally Forth, please. Whoa. Okay. Wow, what's going on there? All right. Hey, Sally, that was an unusual distribution, but let's have fun. Why not? Let's see what happens, because it's all for entertainment purposes only. Well, the Fool card says it's just the beginning. It says new beginnings, possibilities, innocence, spontaneous optimism, trust in life, blind faith, adventure, opportunity, and pleasure. Well, if you're living in the Hawaiian time zone, you got a brand new day ahead of you. Check it out. Both these guys are looking around at how wonderful everything is. You have the Page of Pentacles here. The Page of Pentacles is showing manifestation, financial opportunity, skill development, ambition, desire, and diligence. It's the very beginning where you got a lot of work to do, apparently, but it's going to be fun. It's like starting an art class. The Two of Swords is the Crossroads card. And there's a suggestion that maybe you don't have all the information in order to make a decision just yet. But the Page of Swords apparently has picked out the right sword. So there's going to be new communication that's going to give you the information you need so that you can make that decision and proceed with your project that you're at the beginning of. I'm having fun telling the story. That's why, again, I thank everyone for inviting me to read. The Four of Pentacles suggests frugality and pinching your pennies and minding your energy, basically. And then I'm happy to say the Three of Cups showed up. And the Three of Cups is a celebration card. Save up for the party. Save up for Friday night. You know, when I'm thinking of saving up for Friday night, I'm thinking about Tony Matera in Saturday Night Fever. You know, he worked at the paint shop all week, saving up for Friday night, going to the disco. Okay, Three of Cups. These ladies are dancing. They're doing the hustle. It says celebration, friendship, collaboration, creativity, community, and happiness. You know, and the disco ball is swirling around, and they're listening to the Bee Gees. Okay, and then the closing remarks. Oh man. The Three of Swords talks about heartache and pain. You know what? That could just be like a hangover. You were out partying. Okay, and then then it'll be back to work. Oh, okay, that totally sounds like Tony Matera again too. You know, pitch your pennies, save up for good times because you got to have good times in life. Sleep in the next morning and get ready for work on Monday. So I hope that was fun and entertaining, and I hope only the good parts were accurate, Sally Forth. Thank you very much for inviting me to read. I appreciate your time and your attention and your support. I'm going to read your comments later. I'm not quite sure what's. I'm going to move on now to Cat Theft Auto. Cat Theft Auto. That sounds like a. I'm not going to say what it sounds like. All right, but anyway, Cat Theft Auto. So Cat Theft Auto in October. We're asking for a reflection of a performance of Cat Theft Auto in October, please, for Maria Madrigal. I'm sure you'll show us what we need to see and tell us what we need to hear. Cat Theft Auto in October. Let's take a look at their monthly statement and how they're doing for October. Cat Theft Auto. Thank you for helping us. I'm sure they can't wait to share what they know about digital currency. By Cat Theft Auto. These are from Maria Madrigal. Okay, here we go. This is definitely for entertainment purposes only. I know nothing about this stuff. I'm some guy on the internet throwing tarot cards. All right, but this is totally fascinating and fun. First up, the Page of Wands, limitless potential. That's kind of what we want to hear when we're ready to invest. The Nine of Cups says it's a wish come true. It's starting to sound very promising. This is a celebration card. Whoa. The 10 of Cups, you go from the 9 of Cups to the 10 of Cups. It's a dream come true. So someone feels very bullish on Cat Theft Auto. The Page of Swords says new ways of communicating, new ideas. This could be the concept of digital currency to me, for example. Wow. And then the World card shows up, suggesting completion and accomplishment and arriving. All right, everybody. Now you know. Everybody go invest in Cat Theft Auto. Oh, I'm just kidding. That was a joke. All right, but that was fun to read. Thank you, Maria Madrigal. Let's check the chat one more time. See if there's anyone else who wants a reading. That was pretty fun, all right, Maria Madrigal. All right. Would anyone else like a reading? Right back at you. Okay, I don't really see anyone asking for a request. I'm very sorry if I missed your message. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Julia. Remember, it's a long chat, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to read it after the show, so if you didn't capitalize it, I didn't see it. Let me check one more time. Yeah, we'll take care of Julia. I got Sally Forth. Yeah. All right. Here's to you, Sally Forth, for following directions. Thank you. So, yeah, let's take care of Julia. Oh, yeah, very good, Maria. That'll be a lot of fun. Don't forget to include my disclaimers, please. Okay? All right. That's funny stuff. Let's go to the tarot cam for Julia. These cards are for Julia. Thank you for joining me, Julia. I was looking at your site and I saw that the reading I did at Typical Skeptic podcast on August 8th, you did a little clip of that reading with another gentleman tarot reader. That's kind of cool. How many people in history can say, I've got psychic tarot readings on video on my website for the Lionsgate 8/8, August 8th. That's pretty special. That's very unique. Congratulations. I mean, just on that, as a personal thing, I'd be pretty proud of that. So, but let's get you some nice cards here, some fun, helpful cards. These cards are for Julia. Hey, Julia, I think I mentioned this last time. If you're, I can't wait to see what you publish. If you're doing something with any of your guests, including Mr. Aldrich, but certainly I'm going to keep my eye out for any appearance by Mr. Whitberg. And you probably already know, Julia probably already knows, I don't know if everyone else knows, John Whitberg just posted 2 new videos with I think it's a Russian gentleman he works with. More stuff about the breakaway civilizations. I'm almost done watching both of them. All right. These cards are for Julia. Celebrated podcaster. Industrious individual. These cards are for Julia. These cards are for Julia. Fun, helpful message for Julia, please. Fun, helpful message for our friend Julia. There we go. All right. First up, it's public recognition with the 6 of Wands. Let's see if there's any other clues on the card, just as we get going here. Public recognition, victory, progress, self-confidence. Yeah, you should be at least as proud of what you're doing as I am of you and of knowing you. Yeah, exclamation point. It's the strength card for sure. Whoops. And then the Knight of Pentacles shows up. The Knight of Pentacles talks about hard work, productivity, routine, pretty much describes your day, efficiency. And then the Nine of Wands card indicates to me wisdom from experience. And the Nine of Wands also talks about courage, persistence. Those are both words that work right there. Here's some more helpful terms. But, this really does describe, the public recognition. You're working in the public eye. You're doing a terrific job. You're working hard at it. And then you're also showing, as it says here, courage and persistence. You are a brave person to allow us into your personal life with all the things that you share, besides the ways that you help us with our health and wellness. All right, next up, the Fool indicates new beginnings. And blind faith. I went right to blind faith. That's like 6th on the list here. And I just want to say, I don't know if you feel the same way I do, but, even as determined as we are and the goals that we have, we still don't see all the ways the matrix works around us. And it would make it totally unfun if we knew how the video game worked. We would want a video game that challenged us more. Anyway, the Fool card says, new beginnings, possibilities, innocence, spontaneous optimism, trust in life, blind faith, adventure, opportunity, and pleasure. Follow your joy. Okay, and then the Page of Pentacles shows up again. This is just the beginning. I mean, we talked about how accomplished you are. This could very well just be the beginning of this opportunity you are pursuing with the Page of Pentacles, a financial opportunity, skill development, ambition, desire, and diligence. Finally, the Knight of Swords encourages you to charge forward, ambitious, action-oriented, driven to succeed, fast thinking, defending beliefs, probably all part of your mission statement at your podcast. And then, what I like to say about the Eight of Swords? The Eight of Swords says, as much as you can imagine. Charge forward the way you have been, as much as you can imagine. And then you'll be sitting like the Queen of Cups. Nice. The Queen of Cups, compassion, comfort, calm, nurturing, healing, emotionally stable, intuitive, and caring. Right on, Julia. Thanks for inviting me to read. I hope that was a fun, helpful message. And thanks to the Tarot World for helping me send it to you, because I enjoyed it. Yeah, awesome. Right on, Julia. Okay. I don't know. Oh, Penny G. Now I see some capital letters here. So, Penny G, you'd like a reading? Gotcha. Covered right now. Here we go. Penny G. These cards are for Penny G. Having a good time on a Tuesday with Breakaway Ray and STARCARD podcast. People just in the chat right now, you spend, almost an hour with me today, and that's more time than some people in my family want to spend with me in one sitting. So thank you very much. That's a little self-deprecating humor. My family and we all love each other very much. We can't spend enough time together. I'm good at the self-deprecating humor. I grew up on Bob Hope and Woody Allen. But these cards are for Penny G. Penny G. Special, fun, helpful message for Penny G, please. A helpful, fun message for Penny G, please. These cards are for Penny G. That's right. For Penny G. These cards are for Penny G. These cards are for Penny G in the chat. Whoops. Whoa. You can have both of those cards, Penny G. Yeah, those are nice cards. Right there. These cards are for Penny G. All right, let's go right to the incidental fireworks display here. You got the Queen of Wands, who says, have a zest for life, right? And then you got the Ten of Cups that says, your dreams come true, and there's divine love and harmony and family and all that. So if this was like the thesis, the beginning of your essay, enjoy life, live it to the fullest. Apparently it's already happening. You're on fire. You're doing a good job with that. Well, those are great vibes. We should quit while we're ahead, right? Just kidding. Let's see the rest of these cards for Penny G. Apparently you're always having a good time. What, do you smile like most of the day? Do you smile in your sleep or something, Penny G? All right, let's check out the rest of these cards here. Ooh, the Two of Cups. Let's see what the Two of Cups says. Unified love, partnership, mutual attraction, proposal, marriage, and connection. And for people who don't already know, I consider the Two of Pentacles the spirit world is communicating to us card. You know, it looks to me like a split screen television with two people talking on the phone to each other. And look also, please, how this card showed up at the beginning. Okay, so this is like in the olden days, we say, hello, you're receiving a call from such number. Will you take the call, please? You know, this is a message for you. Okay, here we go. Message from the spirit world for Penny G. 10 of Wands, you've completed a lot of work. All the work is finished. And now there's justice. Something that comes to mind is like, what if there was like a, you know, I wouldn't wish this on anyone, but sometimes you have to get involved in a lawsuit, you know, small potatoes, small claims court, or even like a real estate situation. It takes months to work out. Okay. You know, the work is all over. It's finished now. And now everything is balanced with a justice card, and everyone can sit back and, you know, not worry so much about all that work we had to do. Okay. Now we can get ready for the party over here. Next sentence. Ooh. Hey, Penny G, you should be like requesting a tarot read every time. Even if you're not in the chat, I might have to throw you one because you got a lot of positive cards going here. The Page of Cups says it's going to be a happy surprise. Then the Judgment card says we're going to swap out energies that no longer serve. We're going to bring in some new, fresh, wonderful. It's kind of like getting a blood transfusion. I'm envisioning Keith Richards now, right? Guy famous for getting blood transfusions, and I don't know how many thousands of years old that guy is now, but somehow he's still alive. So, and then also we're getting ready for a party. This lady's blowing the horn. Okay. Woot, woot. And then the last sentence says, oh no. All right. Don't worry. You know, I like turning this card upside down. The Nine of Swords. I'm trying to stay positive here. The Nine of Swords talks about anxiety and worry and fear and depression, nightmares and insomnia, hopelessness, trauma, and despair. That's one way to look at it. But then I turn the card upside down and read the reverse Nine of Swords, where it says, releasing worry, hope, and reaching out. So, you know, we're going to let go of what we're worried about. We're going to have hope, and we're going to reach out and invite people to this party over here. Is this going to be the Three of Cups, ladies? I hope so. No, it's the moon. It's the intuition. So I'm going to say, you know, if it's an intuition card, your subconscious wants you to be happy, have hope, release fear and worry, you know, have a zest for life and celebrate every day with the ones you love. Even if they're not the ones you love, whoever's around you, you know, those are the ones you love now. So thank you very much, Penny G. I'm glad you enjoyed the reading. Thanks for giving me a chance to practice and practice also being inspirational and keeping a positive attitude. It's important for me too. Wow. What an exciting morning. I think I'm going to be checking out now, but I sure appreciate everyone's participation today. And I want to thank all the subscribers to STARCARD Podcast. I know we have many more new subscribers. I appreciate you subscribing because, again, it gets me motivated to say, you know what? I got so many people who are subscribing to STARCARD Podcast. They want to see a show. So, you know, it makes me want to put on a tie and get my face in front of the camera for you. So thanks again for joining me. I hope you have a great day. And thanks again. Have a good one. Let me get my mouse. There we go. Bye, everybody. Thanks a lot.